Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Monday, and we are back again with another PWCC slash Now Fanatics weekly review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auction. This week, quite a big one. As they do with every 10 auctions, we're on 180 this go around. They do a vintage special where essentially you get 110% of whatever the final bid is, so you get a portion of the buyer's premium if it goes over 200. For that reason, tons of people submit, and it's a big old auction. And so let's go ahead and swing on over there now. It's storming out. It's a bit murky, which is why we don't have the best lighting today, but what are you going to do? Also, if you hear any thunder, you know, that's just me. Anyways, right on cue. I don't know if you heard that, but nonetheless, we start at 500 this week, which is pretty crazy because, as you know, other weeks, I mean, we're typically anywhere between like 80 and 200 bucks to start off and to get into the top 96. This week, a good bit more. So let's go ahead and get going. Why not? We start with a Neymar Stadium Club Chrome, red out of 5. I've always loved this one, man. Just such a nice-looking Neymar. You got him with the, I think he's doing the Antoine Griezmann-like celebration, and at the same time he's wearing the Rest in Peace Diego Maradona shirt. Just a classic. I mean, such a nice one. Goes for 504. I was hoping that would sneak through the cracks of this vintage auction. Sadly, it didn't, so I didn't snag it, but nonetheless. Beyond that, 1924 Olympic Uruguayan team. This is a postcard, PSA 5 MK, which is a pretty good grade, I would say. Granted, it's MK, but I mean, it's a postcard, so, you know, what are you going to do? It's got number 53 on the back. It's not like egregious, but pretty good price. Some of those have gone crazy, like the American team ones have gone nuts. The Uruguayan team, very prominent, but also they have just more releases in general, so the Americans are a bit more concise in terms of only having a few things, so that's why they do crazier numbers. Next to it, we have the first of many Leyes from 1936, a very prominent set for South America. And, yeah, tons of good players in there. To be honest, I'm not as versed in South American pre-war as I want to be, so I can't add a whole lot here, but 516 is an okay number. From my understanding, the green front is the rarer version, and a PSA 4 is a pretty good grade as well. So this is the rare version, high grade of whoever Benitez is. I'm sorry, brother, but I don't have much. Didn't do the Wikian beforehand because I had enough cards to look through. It was just a massive load here. Again, another example of Lamine Yamal probably being properly priced, if not overpriced. You know, 528 for a base Sapphire and a PSA 10. The cards that he's up here with for a base Sapphire is enough to show you how crazy this is, at least to me. I feel like I have a decent reference for these other cards. Again, maybe not this one as much, sorry. But, you know, the Uruguayan team postcard's a pretty big one. This Neymar out of 5 red Stadium Club Chrome first year is pretty big, I would think. This Dear Kicker Fritz Walter is huge. This is a pre-war sort of iconic card. One of the pre-war iconic cards I would have in my top however many. Both in terms of, you know, significance, but also somewhat available. Goes for 540 there, and then this PSA 8 Pele. This is a pop 1 of 2, none higher rookie for Pele. Now, granted, it's, you know, Bremer Fockring, which is a release with a ton of different in-action photos, but I mean, think of how many releases Lamine Yamal has. Like, this would put it to shame, given how few there are, and it's a pop 1 of 2, none higher. I was kind of kicking myself for not paying more attention to this. I sort of lost it in the auction. But I probably would have bid at that price. Same thing with the Fritz Walter Der Kicker. I think that got flashed in, so I didn't even have it on my radar. But the Fritz Walter was really cheap. Those in a PSA 1 to 2 have been anywhere from like $750 to $1,500 typically. So 540 there, I think, was a mega bargain. The Pele and Vava PSA 8 I also think was a bargain. I saw a comp on this. I don't know if it was the same one or not, but I think they've gone as high as like $1,000 to $1,500 at times. So 540 on that one I thought was just a great steal. So some steals to be had in this row, probably not the Lamine Yamal, but that's just my opinion, of course. Speaking of the devil, we got a couple more here. Lamine Yamals, these are at 552 each. They've been as high as like 7, 8, maybe 900, so they're definitely down a good bit, at least this card in particular. 65 PSA 9, Fußball Bundesliga. This, of course, has Sepp Maier, the lesser of the names, but you also have Jared Muller and Beckenbauer in here as well. The back was a little stained, or at least one side was very significantly different color than the other side, so I just thought it might not deserve a 9, but nonetheless, it's a really cool card, really cool set, PSA 9. I mean, to me, seems like a fun one. Above it, we have a Platini PSA 5 for 564, which is low, but not his lowest ever. It's definitely higher than some of the lowest sales we've seen. We have this La Ponia Arsenio Enrico that goes for 576. I looked it up, and in terms of pricing, I mean, it's definitely an all-time high price, so from that regard, it's good. But the other ones were PSA 1s and RAWs. I say PSA 1, it was SGC, you get the idea. But those were about $100, $150. So, a 5 for $576 seems fair. Next to it, we have this 1926 Orsi that went for $576. These have definitely been a lot higher as well. There was a Monty that ran as well that sold a lot lower than any of those comps had gone before. I was in there because I think for a while it was at like $250 or $300. Like, it was really cheap. Ended up at $576, which, according to people I've heard from, aka the kind folk at El Rey Collection. You also have Bill from Collect Football, and then Scott. They did a live stream for this live over on the Collect Football page. I'll link that down below if you want to watch it and sort of get their thoughts on all the vintage stuff. They had a really cool live, but they were talking about this card in particular, along with tons of others, of course. You also have an Adolfo Pedinera above it, going for $630 in SGC 5, which, about the same price there, same amount of watchers as the Arico, so, makes sense to me. Thierry Henry banner signatures goes for $630. We have this 1930s, it says 30, but it's 30s, of Matthias Sindelar, sort of a playing card with his image on the front, and a nice facsimile auto. Again, took a stab at this. I had bought an SGC2 recently for like $180, so this final price seems pretty good to me. It is lower than some other comps, but it was lingering really low, so I was taking a stab at it. I would have upgraded grades and sold my other, but nonetheless, $630 for that seems fair. Above it, 2003 Upper Deck, Manchester United Ronaldo, PSA 9 for $660. These have always struck me as still doing pretty well price-wise. I mean, they're pretty available, but they still consistently do a decent number. Next to it, you have a 66 Crack Figuritas Pele and a PSA 2 for $690. This one, I think I looked up, and it was really weird because you have this two that went for $690, and then another one in the same auction block that went for like $1,200. And to me, I mean, maybe the backs are extremely different. I'm not going to dig that much into it. But they didn't seem like wildly different in terms of eye appeal. I thought this one clearly, like, the corners are a bit worse, I would say, but like the color and the imagery looks a little better almost to me. But nonetheless, one went for $690, one went for almost double the price. So kind of crazy to see that happen. Next to it, you have a Peroteo 1938 Koenig. This is a fairly prominent sort of pre-war set, and it has a few different backs. This is the solo back, which from my understanding is the rarest. The 08 and the solo are both pretty rare, but the solo, I think, edges it out just a bit. And this is a pop 1 of 2, none higher. I also believe that this is a rookie for Peroteo. I think 38's his rookie year. He has some other stuff as well out of Portugal, but really nice looking back, really nice looking front as well. And in terms of pricing, this one was a pretty good one. Third all-time high in terms of his Koenig sales out of 21 sales. The only other two went for $100 more and then almost double the price for PSA 5 back during sort of the Koenig booming days. So this is almost, back to booming day prices on this Koenig in particular, which I thought was a fairly decent price. Above it, Sergio Ramos, PSA 9 Mega Cracks for $690, pop 1 of 13. That's about what those do. You have a Kitty Puskás here for $720, sort of one of his earlier, more attainable rookies, and this in a super high grade goes for an okay number. It wasn't like a stunning number by any means. I think it might have even been a little light, but, could be a deal if you're into it. 1992 Euroflash Calcio Flash, Fabio Cannavaro. This one was a good one in terms of sale price, but I closed it because we had so much to look at this week. But there was 3 prior sales. All of them were in 2023, and they were all between $500 and $600. So this one went up a little bit, probably because it hasn't sold in a couple years in that grade. And then finally, top of page 1, we have a Julian Alvarez Kaboom. This PSA 9 Luis Suarez went for $750, which is about triple the price of PSA 9s recently. There's never been another PSA public sale of a PSA 10, that is. And so, to me, it seems fair. And also, I will say it does seem like it's a PSA 9 card to me. When you go look at the back, this was graded early on when PSA wasn't as strict and didn't want to ruin everyone's day. And so they saw this white stuff on the edges and on the corners, and they said, oh, that's good enough. That's good enough, buddy. That's a 10. Have a good time. Go sell the card for a little more. Nowadays, they probably give this like a 7 and, tell you to, kick rocks. So I don't know. It sells for a 10 price. I think that's a PSA 8 or a 9 all day. And so I think that's definitely overpriced if you're talking about the card. If you're talking about the grade, I get it. Next to it, 24 Balancieri here. Pretty, famous set for a few different players and even drivers. But this one goes for $810, which is about where they've been. Given this is a 2 miscut, it's probably closer to like an authentic grade, so kind of makes sense. On to page 3, we start with a Bremer Fakri here. This one in a PSA 6, pop 1 of 3.7 higher, goes for 810. You got Pele, I think he's standing here on the left-hand side. Of course, he's got to be in it if you're getting this sort of pricing. 1942, this is the Fabrica Glorieta set. I said before that this was a World Cup set. That was a very poor missight on my part. It's actually a Copa America set. So, but apparently, from what I've read in the Vintage Discord, again, as always, link down below to the Vintage Discord. Amazing place to gather tons of info and learn tons of stuff. But this is one of the first, if not the first, in terms of tournament sets to have all the teams in it and to have like a full blown out set. Also looks really good. This is post-playing career for Andrade, but Andrade's been on quite the tear lately. He had a card on Golden sell for like 10 to 20K, somewhere in there. It was the Los Andes that sold for a big number, and he's gonna have even more in this auction block that sell really good. So post-playing career for 840 seems like a decent price. It is also a really nice looking sticker, so I'll give it that. But nonetheless, Roberto Chero next to him, PSA 4 for this Leyes goes for 840. Above that, PSA 6 R9 promo rookie goes for 900. This is actually up from some other sales we've seen lately, but it's around where it's been for the most part, so it's not like an all-time low, but it's fair. This is Zinho 1950 Americana. Huge card here, at least for Zinho, of course. 900 in terms of price. PSA 2, his Ting hauls are anywhere typically between like 100 and 200, maybe a little higher for like PSA 1s and 2s. The Ting hauls are another big set from 1950, but there's a lot more of them, so a PSA 2 here going for 900. Seems fair. There was a lot of these Americanas in this auction block, and I love that set personally. I tried to get some, but I just couldn't win them. But nonetheless, 900 on that one seems like a pretty fair price, but also a really cool card / sticker. So there you go. 1960 Marcelo Pele, yellow border, PSA 5. This one goes for 930, which to me just seems cheap from the sole fact like it's a pop 1 of 1 then higher, which for like Pele in general, you know, it's hard to get that for under 1,000, especially an early Pele like that, especially like a color match with his kit and all that good stuff. I mean, it looks really nice. That seemed a little light to me, at least, you know, for the set registry chasers. Above it, Romario PSA 8 for 930. This one was up a little bit from some sales, but not like crazy. George Weah PSA 9. This one also up a little bit, 960 on that one. It's been as low as like 600 to 700 lately. We also have the Nanina Pele SEC 3. People really like the Nanina Pele from 1962. Goes for 990 there, which again seems a little light, I guess, for Pele, but that's sort of a theme as of late. Pele's been down a good bit. Which I think sort of makes sense from the perspective of Pele was the last domino to fall in the reset of a lot of different soccer card prices. So I feel like he might be the last one to sort of get the kick back up. That could be what we're seeing. You know, make of that what you will. Would love to hear your thought down below if you have anything that you think in terms of Pele pricing. But nonetheless, we'll continue. The 78 Estampas PSA 2. I thought Maradona did pretty well throughout this auction block. He had a few dupes of different cards and stickers, and they all seemingly went for comps, if not higher. 78 Estampas here in a PSA 2 for 1,000. It does have the eye appeal sticker on the back. I don't know if like Fanatics is just taking a stand and just ignoring all the PWCC eye appeal stickers. I feel like this is a disservice to whoever's auctioning this, like the consigner, to not at least mention that, you know? And they do this a lot. But right next to it, they'll mention their sticker here, which is top 15%, and just looks horrible. Like, I mean, isn't this so much cleaner of a look? Like, that's so much less intrusive. It looks nice. Maybe I wouldn't want it right over the PSA thing. Maybe, like, you know, you put it off to the side right here. I don't know. Maybe like down here or like right here. I don't know. That'd probably look bad on the front. But all to say, this looks really clean. That looks really nice. And then they just come in and do this. Like, this looks awful. Why? Gosh, you know, what is... I guess it's not going to load. But, like, what is that? That's just an eyesore. Who would want that, you know? I mean, that took, like, what, 3 seconds to design in Photoshop? I mean, it's like there's no effort in that at all. Nonetheless, they'll promote it, and they'll be happy to, but... I don't know. PSA 6, Calciatore, I'm just going to assume that's a fair price. Given what I know about Calciatores in general, it doesn't strike me strong or light one way or the other. The El Mundo Deportivo PSA 7 goes for 1,050. These have been lower at times, 800 or 900 in terms of their low. They seemingly sort of found their sweet spot there after they dropped a good bit a couple years back. Beyond that, we have a Plus Ultra here. There'll be a few more of these, but this is a, oh man, I'm not even going to try with the name. I apologize. 1,050 there, the Plus Ultra set, really hard one to find, and we'll see some really big prices for some more prominent names from 1926 South America there. Decent price. We have 1,080 next to it for this Jose Nasasi PSA 1 miscut from the 32 Glorieta set. Goes for nearly 1,100. This David Beckham in a 10 goes for nearly 1,100 as well. In an 8 or a 9, that would be like a $30 or $60 card. Maybe 100 on a good day, I don't know. But a 10 gets a big premium. Keeping it moving, we have a Bernabé Ferrara here in a PSA 2 that goes for 1,100. We'll see another one of him right above it here at, well, I just scrolled up because it's right here, but this record from 33 went for 1,200, so it's interesting to see that one from a few years earlier compared to the Leyes. Next to it, we have the 66 crack that we were talking about Pele earlier. This one sold for a massive number, as we mentioned. Don't really know why. I guess I'll just look at the back out of pure curiosity. The back looks decent. I would assume the other one isn't marred either, but who knows. This yellow Eusebio goes for 1,200, which isn't like strong, but it's, I would say, a fair price for a PSA 4. Pop one of 8 higher. The yellow Eusebio has always sort of been an iconic one, at least in my head, as it's one of the first, if not the first, available Eusebio. He doesn't really have many available in 61, 62. They are out there. They're just really, few and far in between, and there's a few different sets. So to me, this one always sticks out as iconic. The yellow names being much harder than the blue, but not getting like a crazy price for a PSA 4. Those at one point certainly were a good bit higher. Keeping it moving, PSA 9 of the 108 bis Lamine Yamal for 1,200 there. We also have a Taddy Needham, which I looked up and seemingly did a really good price. This one in a PSA 2 did 1,300. The only sales we have prior are an authentic that did 40 and a PSA 4 that did 990. Now, maybe there's something here with this SGC Authentic that I'm just not aware of. It is labeled a bit differently. It says Imperial Tobacco. This one doesn't, at least on the flip. So, yeah, again, I'm not an English pre-war, pre-World War I expert, certainly. So I'm not going to claim that. But I will claim that that looks like a pretty strong price, at least considering what we just saw there. Keeping it moving, PSA 7, Calciatore. Now, this strikes me as a little light, considering the 6 was 1,050. I'd definitely pay the $240 more to get a PSA 7. Why not? It doesn't have the cool, sweet blue eye appeal sticker on the back, but I could probably live without it, I think. Keeping it moving, PSA 6 Ronaldinho, 1,300. Those at one point in time were 3 to 4K back in 2021, 2022. They've now dropped and seemingly found a sweet spot here, a little over 1,000 in this grade. Finally, on this page, we have a Miata CGC2 disc from the 1930s going for $1,350 out of the Belial set. So that's the first half of the auction block, only going to get bigger and better. And we start with the PSA 8 Aquarella. I don't think I've ever seen a PSA 8 Aquarella in my life. This goes for $1,400, which is, a little higher than the price of a PSA 1 Pele. I'd probably take the Garincha, personally, but that's just me. PSA 8 is crazy. Now, granted, on this type of stuff, how much can you trust a PSA 8 grade on a, perforated edge card? I don't know, but if you trust it, then that's a massive grade. PSA 4 crack, people love the 67 crack set. There's so many cool caricatures in it. And, of course, here you have Pele in a PSA 4 with the crown, the king himself, El Rey, or O-Ray, as it has here on this image. $1,400 there was seemed like a fair price, not crazy by any means. You see, lesser stars in similar grade go for hundreds at times, so to get a Pele for a little over 1,000 doesn't seem crazy. PSA 9 Baresi for $1,400. This is definitely up. They've been as low as I feel like 700, 800, 900, somewhere in there, like the high hundreds. This one goes for nearly $1,500, so a decent bit of a pop there. Same thing here with this Maldini. This one you could have gotten a lot. I don't know if I closed that one as well. Again, I had to close a lot of stuff, so forgive me. Oh, Ronaldinho's there. Yeah, there's Maldini. So, in terms of his pricing, $1,400 here. If you look back, $1,100, $700. This is a flash, so that doesn't really count. $600, $700, $1,100, $900. There will be other sales at $2K back in 2021, 2022. But yeah, that's a super strong price for him. And if you were buying at $600, you're probably feeling pretty good. Vita Trilco Cruyff postcards. This is sort of rookie era, really early for him. I don't know if it's the only 66. I think the Sicker Verlag 67, 68. So this is sort of pre-rookie. It is a postcard, but it's a really nice looking postcard. You got a facsimile auto of Cruyff. full body image. I mean, it's just really nice looking. So, if you're going to bend a little bit and maybe grab a postcard, I could see that being the one, and pop one of 7 as well, certainly helping that. $1,500, a fair price, not crazy, not light, but fair. PSA 2 Aquarella, again, vintage Discord link down below as always. There's someone in there that's pretty knowledgeable on vintage Brazil issues, and he's stating, or at least claiming, that the Aquarella set was released in 58 and 59, and there's 2 different albums. And in the 59 album, from what I understand is his experience, he only finds blues in there, and he doesn't find blacks. So his assumption is that the blacks were sort of the first print in the 58 release, and the blues were 58, 59. So he views the blacks as true rookies, I guess, compared to the blues. But ultimately, I can't vouch for any of this. I don't know. I'm just parroting what I've heard someone say. So, take it for what you will. But $1,800, they're still a decent price. Again, I've been mentioning for a while, these are about $1,000 a grade, and this is seemingly keeping that in line. Above it, a 58 Bremer Fockring PSA 7. I'm pretty sure this is the same image you find on the Heinerlay. This one goes for $1,800 here, and a pop one of 2, just 2 higher. Next to it, a Mario Coluna rookie from 54, going for $1,800 there. Not going to find any comps on that, but cool to see it run. Titularis PSA 2, this goes for $1,860 with an eye appeal designation. Top 30%, there it is, which, it looks pretty good. I can give it that. $1,800 there seems like a fair price. We've seen 4s go as low as like $2,200 lately, so that does definitely seem like a decent price. Above it, we have, well, I got a win up here, but this one I did lose on. I did take a stab at this PSA 3. The colors are a little bit misaligned, like the focus isn't great, but I liked the colors in general. I had really strong colors. PSA 3 went for $1,900, which again felt, fair, if not moderately strong, at least compared to some of the lowest sales we've seen lately. Generally speaking, it's probably just a fair price, I would say. And, the Titularis is, I was looking last night, because as we'll see in a second, I was just, looking around at Pele rookies. But this was a pop, I think it's a pop 90 for this card in general, which is a good bit more than the vertical Titularis, and we'll see one of those very high near the top here as we keep going. This Rivaldo PSA 9 goes for $1,900, which is a pop 1 of 1, then higher. Cool to see that go. Definitely a strong price. I mean, I feel like I've seen 6s and 7s around like $100 at times when they're, selling low, maybe $100 to $200. So a 9 at 2,000 is definitely a bump. This Rivellino here from 66. We've seen a few different Rivellino rookies go recently. This in a PSA 4 seems like a decent price, I would say, especially grade adjusted. I'm not sure if it's a 66 or 65, but there's some sort of like game piece that essentially got graded and probably shouldn't be, or at least to me isn't considered to be sort of the typical collectible. That seems more in line with that. This one goes for $2K here. Then in this row, you got a 1968 Palarex Cruyff PSA 2 that went for $2,000. Which was a little higher than some of the comps we've seen lately, but it does have the eye appeal in top 15%, so I could definitely see that making up for it. This is my one win of the auction block. I got the 1958 Edizione Vav out of Italy. This is a Pele and Vava duel that is commemorating the 1958 World Cup win. I was pretty happy with it. The back isn't great, as you can see there, even bluer once I highlight it, but just a blue back, and it has the Champions of the World 1958 Brazil. Got a flag there too. Centering not great, but the centering on these are never great, so this is actually somewhat decent in comparison. I've always liked this, given it's a bit more rare. It's a pop 50 total, maybe pop 60, I think, on PSA site, 50 to 60, somewhere in there, and a PSA 4 is a strong grade. It's a pop 16 with like 3 higher, so it's a top 40%, all the way to like a top 10% if you assume it's the best of the 4s, which I'm not going to, but it's anywhere from top 10 to top 40% for this card in particular, and so I was very happy to add it. $2,300. These have definitely dropped a lot more. I think pre-boom back in 2020 there was a sale on a PSA 4 for like $1,600, so I'm not paying much of a premium on 2020 pricing, which makes me feel pretty good given I think it's a fairly significant early Pele. Then you have a 76 Graf Socrates rookie PSA 4 here that goes for $2,300. I did look up comps on that, but did I keep them? That will be the question. I did. There we go. $2,300 on this one, as you can see. We see a PSA 2 miscut for $780, a PSA 1 for $1,100, PSA 5 miscut for $14, which is kind of a PSA 3 you would assume. So, honestly, when you look at those, it seems like they're just really high to get in the door. It seems like to get one, you're almost going to have to pay $1,000. Back here was a lot higher, back when they were first coming out. But nowadays, it seems like to get one, you almost need to pay $1,000. But then you only need to pay $2,000 to get a PSA 4. So, If you want the grade premium, that doesn't seem too shabby. This is the same Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi Panini Portugal de Oro card with both of them on it. Well, it's a sticker, but we saw this go recently, the same exact one for $4,000 a month ago, and presumably it went unpaid. So, I thought it was a crazy sale at the time. This kind of confirms that it was a crazy sale. It's just always tricky, and I would always recommend, if you're buying PSA 8s and 9s, don't ever look at a 10 sale, especially a crazy 10 sale, because during the time that this went unpaid in a PSA 10, a bunch of 8s and 9s got liquidated. And so it's like, well, it seems a little weird. It just seems a little weird. But nonetheless, it's back, $2,300 there. There's no way to know for sure that it went unpaid. It's just, my educated guess based off what I've seen. So nonetheless, 1.5 Diego Maradona here for $2,600. Seems like a decent price. I mean, typically to get in the door on a 77 crack, you're talking like $1,500. So a 1.5 for $2,600 isn't anything out of the norm. I also thought it was a really good eye appeal, which they didn't give it one of those cool blue stickers, but man, the colors are great. I know, the case for the PSA case almost seems worse. Like it exacerbates whatever's going on the edges here. I get it has these little jagged edges, but like that's normal for a Pog. I actually prefer to see that because that kind of, reinforces legitimacy. And you look at the back, it's pretty clean back. I think for a 1.5, that was a really good buy. Or at least a really good buy with the eye appeal and everything considered. If you really love eye appeal, I think that one's a good one. So, just my thought. 32 Andrade here, talking about how he's done pretty good again. Although this is a PSA 3, which is a strong grade. So, $2,760 there on that price, which is, pretty solid. Above it, we have a 58 Brazilian team, Alifa Bolliger, PSA 8 for $2,880. We also have an Embleble, which I'm just going to call is an obese Pele that went for $3,000 with the orange variation. There's a yellow, a green as well, as we can see here, and they basically always go for $2 to $3K, so that one's right in the ballpark as well. We have a Topps gold foil board. I don't know what gold foil board is. I just thought that was gold, but maybe in Topps base, because this is not Topps Chrome, this is not Topps Sapphire, this is Topps base, just paper, and maybe gold foil boards is how they say gold. I don't know. $3K in total for a PSA 9 card, PSA 10 auto there on Lamine Yamal. Again, Lamine Yamal out of 50 auto or a rare, very early Pele. I don't know. Take your pick. Keeping it moving though, we got some other rare Peles. If maybe this rare Pele didn't do it for you, maybe these ones will. The crack a little less rare, I think, than the Americana, but the crack's a big card that people do quite enjoy as well. To start though, the Raymond Kopa from 1950. Now this is one that you would probably assume foul play, if not for knowing the people involved. Again, Vintage Discord, nice part about it. The guy that sold this a couple months ago ended up selling it, well, the last one in auction 170. He sold it for $10K, which was a huge price because the same one had sold a couple years before to him for like $1,000, maybe $1,500, somewhere in there. And so it was a huge, huge price, and everyone was sort of shocked by it. But it did go through. It did get paid. He has no reason to lie. He's much more of a collector than he is like an investor flipper. So he's not, someone that's out for doing things with malice and malintent. Like he clearly is a good guy. So I totally trust that it did sell. And to then see it rerun here at $3,000 is kind of crazy. I'll just say that that's a very drastic move. Up then down, but ultimately still up a good bit from where it was originally at anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500 from what I remember. So still doing pretty well. That's a big set as well that has some other really cool names in there that we just haven't seen sell since the last time that it went to auction. I say the last time it went to auction. This went to auction and like 3 or 4 or 5 other pretty well-known names. Nonetheless, next to it we have a 65 Crack Golazo Pele, PSA 5, that goes for $3,000. In terms of sales on this one, nearly an all-time high for sure for the grade. We saw PSA 6 in 2021 back during the booming days at $3,050, and so grade adjusted, this would be the highest sale ever, so that's pretty strong there. PSA 3 did $2,600, so I guess compared to that 3, maybe it's a little light, but ultimately still one of the highest sales, if not the highest sale ever, grade adjusted. 59 Americana Pele here goes for $3,100 as well. Not something you see all too often for sure. And that takes us to page 1, where again, just some big numbers, big numbers across the board. This Gianni Rivera PSA 3 went for $3,100, which seemed like a big number, but then you look it up and it certainly is. We've seen a 2 recently go for $1,000, a 2 for $720, a 3 for $1,020. So that's almost, that's triple the last 3 price that was a year ago. So that's a strong one. The Monday Chromo PSA 9 Messi goes for 3,600, which again, super strong. We've talked about this basically every week for years now. Like, they're almost always between 1,500 and $2,000. This one gets a huge number. I'd have to think that I don't know. There's probably a million different things that you could chalk it up to. From what I understand, some people are saying that it could be manipulated or whatever because there are other like PSA 9s that are at 3,000 on best offers or bins. But at the same time, this looks really well centered, at least from here. And I'd imagine the other 9s probably aren't. So maybe that's one way you could sort of account for it. There's a lot of ways you could account for it. There's a lot of ways you could talk it down. Ultimately, I can see why it's getting some love because while this 71 bits is running, this hasn't done anything, really. And I do like the Monday Chromo. It's a little bit more available, but I like it a lot. And so 3,600, I mean, yeah, it feels strong compared to recent prices, but it doesn't shock me in and of itself. I mean, at least I was around during times where it was much more than that during the booming days, so I get it. Beyond that, Paolo Maldini, this one again seems really strong. Maldini, of course, like a cult hero, one of the best defenders ever. So, like, I can definitely see him getting good prices, but this one seemed even especially strong. One, it's a PSA 5, but on this type of card, you probably don't care as much, but you should at least consider it because there could be 8s that come out eventually, and so are those going to be 10,000, 20,000 cards? Like, I don't know. There was a Zidane from 99 that went for $16.99 back in March. There was also a Zidane and a PSA 5 from the first year Merlin set that went for $2,100. So this one does almost double the price of the Zidane, which at least to me was sort of why it stuck out as a massive sale. And impressive to see. I think the Merlin set is really cool. The rubies, especially, of course. There's also one of ones. I don't know if the first year has it. I know the second year does, but one of ones exists as well, which are massive, obviously. And so I think it's a really fun set. Definitely getting some love there, and it seems all the more solidified with that price as well. Beyond that, this 2023 Topps Museum Collection Black 1010 grade out of 10, I think, goes for 3,600 here of CR7. It is a sticker auto, and so a sticker auto from Modern getting 3,600 feels super strong to me, but of course to each their own. PSA 9 record, we've seen these anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 for the most part, so this is on the lower end of it for this Pele and a PSA 9. We then have a Aquarella and a PSA 4 that goes for 4,300. I sort of already talked about the black versus blue number, but this one's black number. We have another black number above it, SGC 5 for 4,300. Initially, I was like, oh, an SGC 5, I'd probably take that. But when you go in and look at it, this part throws me, I mean, you can see it from here, right? You can see which part of the card I'm thinking of. Like, I know perforations are hard to grade, but I feel like this would kind of hurt it a lot in PSA. I think that's like missing a spot entirely, which, again, perforations are hard to grade, but at least from like zooming out, it still sticks out, at least to me. So I think that in a PSA slab might not do as hot. Nonetheless, we have a Tarasconi here from the Plus Ultra set again. Not a player you see a whole lot of. I just assume not many issues would be part of it, but 4,300 there on that Plus Ultra is a pretty big number, at least to me as an outsider looking in. Of course, you never really see these run, so it's hard to really get a feel for them, but really cool to see on public auction. And again, one of the fun parts of having these sorts of things, I think, just brings them out of the woodwork and allows people to actually see what they do and what they trade for and what they even are, because, like, to me, this wasn't anything on my radar. As someone that doesn't specialize in South American pre-war. Then you have a Pele Aquarella auto here, goes for 4,600. Like the auto, it's a PSA 9 because it goes off card, but to me it still looks pretty good. I do wonder if at some point in time those end up being sort of pretty big cards like the Pele autos. We see them from time to time now. I mean, they're definitely out there, but I wonder if one day they sort of get locked down. Especially in a world where people are paying this price for like Lamine Yamal sticker autos. I would just rather have an on-card Pele auto from his rookie year, so... Again, just me, but to each their own. In this row, you got a full row of Messi. Take your pick. We have a 2023 Topps Argentina World Champs Greatest Gold Foil 101 for $5K. You have a PSA 671 BIS, which was a super strong sale. This is the chart here, and as you can see, pretty good. In April, it was doing 3,300. Now it's doing 5,200, at least on this sale. There was another sale, presumably last night, and so it averaged out to 4,900. But this one is 42 to 43. 52 to 53, apologies. Next to it, we have a Mega Cracks BGS 95, number 35. This is the team set, the Barca team set. This is one of the three, and this goes for 5,600. I didn't look up comps on that, just because I'm going to assume that's a pretty good comp. Like, BGS 9s are probably or at least have been in the past, anywhere from like 1,500 to 2,500, 2,500 at a high. So, you know, a 9.5 doing nearly, well, over 55, nearly 56, 57. I mean, that's pretty good. Keeping it moving, and we're still only in the top 12 of this week. We have a Revancha Alfredo Di Stefano that goes for 5,700. One of his, at least in my opinion, one of his really great looking early items. This is authentic grade and the back's pretty torched, but at the same time, you can't find really many early Di Stefanos, and some of them do come with some question marks in terms of authenticity. And so to find that here at 57, fun to see, but don't have a lot to compare it to at the same time, so I can't really give much perspective from that regard. We have a 1970 Pele PSA 9 for 5,800 here. In terms of comps, the only other one we have to go off of is a blue and red back at 12, and so that's, you know, it's kind of just making your own prices at this point. I do think one thing, at least to me, that I worry about with this sticker in particular is the borders on it. Mostly top and bottom would be what I would draw your eye to here. Left and right, you can see that those borders are bigger than the top and bottom. But in particular, if we go to this 9OC, this has a short top border, but that bottom border is massive, right? Just massive. And this has a short top border, but the bottom's pretty short as well. And so to me, it's just, you know, it's kind of iffy. I believe this was pointed out by, it's like, I'm gonna get his full name wrong, but it's Doug on Instagram. I think it's Doug J something. I apologize. Hopefully you're here and, you know, that's enough for you. But he pointed it out, and after looking at it, I tend to agree. Now, you never know with cuts back in the day. You can always be like, well, maybe it was factory cut a little wonky, but it's hard to know for sure. Now, granted, that's with the PSA guarantee, so PSA stands by this stuff. They'll pay out if, you know, they deem it to be worthy. So at the same time, you always have that going for you, and a PSA 9 super high grade, so I get it. But at least that's one thing that stuck out to me on that sticker and was worthy of talking about. Speaking of potentially altered cards, we have this one here that PSA seemingly is convinced on. This one is an authentic altered Alifa. From what I saw, again, in the live stream of the vintage auction here, they were talking about how this was a item that actually had sold for a lot at one point in time. Like, at one point, I do remember an authentic altered selling for like as much as a PSA 3 or 4 sold for, and it was just crazy and didn't make any sense. It goes back to auction. Can't really explain it. I have no clue. But here it is for $6K, which is still like PSA 1 pricing, but still an authentic altered card. So nonetheless, this route we have a choice here of a few different items. We got a Maradona and a couple Pelés. The Maradona is a PSA 6 crack, which these have sold anywhere, well, the last sale I think was 8 to 9K, somewhere in there. So this one's kind of low in comparison. I think it's really good looking. I mean, the centering's pretty solid. The colors are really nice. The focus is pretty good. I do have a question here on like what this is. I don't know if this is the shadow from like this part above it, this little plastic seal above it. At least interesting. I don't know, again, if that's a shadow or not or what that is, but ultimately pretty, well, I guess not a pretty decent price. Still a pretty low price here for this crack Maradona. They are at least getting graded a decent bit more. Back in the day, this at one point was a pop 1, and now we're talking pop 8 with 5 higher. So you always have to be cognizant that more of these will come out, and, you know, for certain cards more than others, of course. Keeping it moving, we have this Titularis 58 Pele PSA 1. This one gets a $9,000 price tag. Reason being, this is sort of the rarer version of this Titularis in particular. This Titularis, from what I was talking about earlier, the horizontal Titularis number 86, or sorry, number 50, that one is a pop 90. This one's, I believe, a pop 50. So this one's rarer just in general. It's about, you know, twice as rare, at least so it would seem. In particular, this one even more so. There's 3 different versions. There's one with an autograph on it, which is not his autograph. It's someone else's. I believe it's like Vava's or something. No, I think it's Nilton Santos's, but, you know, don't quote me. It doesn't matter. So there's an autograph one, a facsimile autograph one, and then there's a facsimile autograph with a star on it, and then there's this one, which has none of it. And to me, I would much prefer the one with none of it, given that that's not his auto. So I think this is a huge difference maker for this sticker in particular. His face does look like a little Play-Doh-y, I think. At least that's the way I describe it. Like, it does look a little weird. It's the same thing for Grinch. They almost look like mannequins or like dolls. But nonetheless, back looks good, front looks good. Got a really strong price, which I was hoping maybe it'd fall through the cracks, but definitely didn't. I do remember bidding on one that was torched that sold for like 4K. And I was like, maybe this one goes light. But no, this one still went for a good number, 9K there. So you can take your pick between, what do we have here? We have this PSA 1, the rare version of the vertical titularis, or a PSA 6, pop 1 of 4, just one higher of the horizontal number 50. Personally, I'd probably take this one, but I wouldn't do so with conviction, I guess. I don't know. I place a lot of premium personally on the rarer version of the other titularis, but at the same time, a PSA 6 here is super hard to beat. As you can tell, pop 1 of 4, just one higher, so I mean, that's a big time sticker there. Both at the same price, which I find to be really intriguing. In this row, we have a 1 of 1 Lamine Yamal from 2023 Topps Total Football Euro. I feel like is the Total Football, is that like is that the online game that people talk about? I feel like this is like some sort of online thing that probably got a regular card to go with it, which yeah, I can't really speak to. I don't know a whole lot. It's a Lamine Yamal 1 of 1. Any Lamine Yamal 1 of 1 is going to get a decent price, and this one, of course, does too. 9K there. We have a PSA 2 Alif at 9,900. Again, very interesting to see the authentic altered at 6K, a PSA 2 at 99. I guess it speaks to the eye appeal, maybe? I don't know. I'm looking at watchers. This one had 83. This one had 119. So clearly it, dissuaded some people. But not a massive price given the grade difference. So that's interesting. Speaking of not a massive price for the grade difference, here we have a 46. Here we have a 46 Nanina Puskás, which is cut pretty short. But this is a hand-cut item in general. So, like, where do you draw the line on how much you can cut inside? I don't know. I would guess this is authentic because it's been cut so small. When we go and look at other sales here, we can see that some of the ones that have sold in the past, like this was a 4-5 that sold for $15,000, a lot more border on it. It's outside of the lines. I'm not someone that thinks that you should be outside of the lines on these, because if you're cutting them back in the day, you're probably cutting them on the line. And so some will be smaller, some will be bigger, but I do think there should be at least a decent amount of border. But there's not a big change of price. Like this was $15,000 earlier this year, and this one gets $11,000 with an authentic. So I thought that was a pretty strong price. It's a really cool card / sticker. You gotta love the 46 Nanina Puskás. It's a true of trues for him, and so it's definitely a standout and definitely one I would consider to be iconic. And at that price point, definitely speaks to that as well. But that takes us into the top 3, and this week we have a pretty substantial top 3. We start with the 58 Americana Pele, which you barely see sell. We have seen some of these in the past. There was one, and actually the same exact one sold on Alt's eBay account for $11,000 just back in October of last year. So it sold for $25 more this year. Big bump up in price. It also sold back in the day for $2,800 or $28,000. Apologies, on Fanatics Premier. This one with an eye appeal sticker. So the eye appeal sticker, I guess, is faded away. I wonder if it's on the back. Did they make any note of it? Does anyone care? Is it on the back? It's not. Someone just ripped it off, I guess. All right. Well, whatever. Nonetheless, at one point in time, had the eye appeal sticker. Got 28K back in the day. Of course, it's fallen, as have a lot of Peles, as have a lot of soccer cards from the all-time highs. It's hard not to after such a crazy roar upward. But this goes at the same price, which to me doesn't feel bad. I mean, it's not like a crazy deal by any means. I've always loved the Americana, personally. I think it's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, early Pele. If we're talking like 58s, of course. If you could only have one Pele, I'd take the 57s and whatnot. But, like, yeah, I mean, if I had to choose a 58 that I just really like, this one would be the one for me. And so 11K at that point, I do feel like, 11K for this or 9K for the rare titularis, I feel like I'd definitely take the Americana personally. But again, would love to hear what you guys think down below. And then next to it, we're not going to have a whole lot of comps here to look at, but we can look at some pretty cool cards. This is a 1926 Plus Ultra Orsi, which, as you can tell, decent number here at 21K coming on in, top 30%. Eye appeal as well. SGC pop, 1 of 1, none higher. I know with like English stuff of this era, you have to worry with like coloring in on the corners and on the sides. Seemingly this wouldn't have any of that, or at least it's not mentioned. I don't know if that's what's going on down here or not. I know SGC's always like, I don't think SGC actually says sometimes if it's been colored. Like I bought SGC ones that have marks on it, and it makes no mention of it. They're not as crystal clear about it as PSA is. But nonetheless, this is obviously the type of card that doesn't matter really if it's been marked at all or not. I mean, clearly people are willing to go big on it, no matter the case, and really cool card. Glad to see it go in the auction block. And again, just another case in point of when you have these auctions, it can bring out really cool stuff and bring a lot of people in to go and bid on this stuff. So I just think another ode to this auction and this sort of style that we're doing. It does have the top 30% on the back. It does also have this big sort of pink mark on the back, which apparently also exists on the other Plus Ultras that we have seen prior. So that's somewhat important to note. But big sale there. Not enough to win the week, though, as Jose Manuel Moreno, his Leas with the green front, again, the green front being a bit more rare. PSA 5, super strong grade, goes for $23,400 here. And yeah, that's a big one. We do actually have some comps on this, not on the same grade, because that's basically impossible. I mean, there's a little bit going on there. But we're talking a 90-year-old card here, so you can't nitpick too much. Really nice looking overall, I would say. And PSA 5 going for $23,000. Apparently this had sold on eBay. I couldn't find the comp on eBay, and I wasn't really trying to dig too much. But apparently someone bought it on eBay and then went and flipped it into this auction. And I guess they did really well on it. Again, I don't know what the price was, but there were people speculating that there was shady business going on. I'm guessing just someone that found it at a good price and then went and sold it because they know on Fanatics you're going to get you're going to get respectable, if not really good prices for great vintage stuff like this on Fanatics, especially in these premieres, but even maybe not in these. I say premiere, this is like a soccer premiere, you get the idea. Anyways, when we look at other comps, you got a PSA 1 MK for $3,400, PSA 2 for nearly $10,000. You have a PSA 2 here for $3,600, so it's definitely roared upwards. A PSA 2 went from being $3,600 to being $9,900. Now, granted, it has an IPL sticker, so I don't know if this is the same one or not. 220 to finish off that cert. This is not the same one. This does look a little better, I would say, but still, big, massive move in terms of that. And so when you see a 1 MK going for $3,500 and a 2 going for $10K, a 5 with the rarer green version doesn't necessarily seem unfair at $23,000, I would say. And so ultimately, really good price there. Really good prices throughout this auction block. Fun stuff everywhere. Some deals to be had. Some maybe not so much deals to be had where you got to pay up on something you really want, like this Maldini Ruby right here. And just across the board, really cool stuff. There was 28 pages of this, so there was stuff for everyone, no matter what level you're at. And even some of the funner stuff could have been lower than these. In the sense that there's just stuff you don't see even down in the $100 range, the $50 range. There's just stuff that pops out every now and then, and you're able to get on this auction. So I'm stalling because I don't want to look at next week. We can do it, but it's just going to be disappointing to what we saw this week, I would assume. You do have a 71 bis here. You got a PSA 4 Alifa. You got a red Messi. So the modern folk, you got a red Messi, some Topps Dynasty. A PS 8 Cantona, which is pretty big grade there. But yeah, definitely, anything's almost disappointing compared to what we saw last week. You got Dolar Zamora, and I'm sure some fun stuff in between. PSA 7 Florian Albert's pretty big grade there. But ultimately, fun stuff last week. Surely some fun stuff to be had next week, but obviously gonna be peanuts in comparison. So hopefully you enjoyed this auction block as always. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Would love to hear your thoughts down below. Anything you snagged, anything you thought sold high or low, would love to hear about it. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.